So in the past, if somebody wins and terrible things happen, it's not an existential crisis. You get another bite at the apple. This time, like, they're going to take your teeth away. You will never get another bite at the apple.
Kamala's America. That's what I'm calling it. The nightmare scenarios. What are they? I'm asking a lot of very, very impressive, knowledgeable people who have quite a lot to say about this question. So today we're going to Eric Metaxas, who I'm going to introduce, even though he should not need introduction. He is a national gem in my humble opinion, and that's a fact. He is the conscience of Christian America today, and it extraordinarily has raised the level of discussion, the bar, to just where I don't know that it's ever been before. His new book is Religionless Christianity, God's Answer to Evil, and it's extraordinary as well. We may be going into that, but primarily our question is today, what is the existential threat of Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, administration if they get installed into power? What does that look like? First day, first 100 days, after 4 years. Eric, I want to thank you for joining me. Welcome your hero of WorldNet Daily, and Elizabeth Farah, and my husband Joseph. And I just want to let you go. Answer that question.
Well, first of all, you're very generous and kind. I really appreciate your saying such wonderful things. I have to say that, I didn't sign up for this job. It's amazing to me that I find myself saying the things I'm saying, that I find myself living where we're now living. I'd like to live in a different America where this stuff is, 100 years in the future. Unfortunately, it is not. And so yesterday, when I got your question to think about this, I almost laughed. I wanted to laugh and cry, because I think the original phrasing of the question is like, what is the worst danger that you would see in a Kamala Harris presidency? And it's like asking, like, what is the number one bad thing that would happen if you drove a car 120 miles an hour into a brick wall? What's like the worst thing? And you'd say, what do you mean? Like, there's nothing. It's over. You're extra dead. It's over. It's like saying, what's the downside if George Washington were to lose to King George III and the British Army? What do you see there? No America, enslavement by tyranny. It's like saying, what if like let's look through it. Like, hey, what if Hitler actually wins World War II? Then what? How's it looking? It's game over. But most Christians in America today have no idea that that's what we're talking about. They can't bear the thought that that's what we're facing. And I have to be really clear. Bonhoeffer went through the same thing, trying to wake up Germany in 1933, 34. He could see what was coming. He could see that if the church didn't stand up like pretty much immediately once Hitler took power, that they would lose their ability to fight. This is the key, right? In other words, it's sort of like, what would happen if you lose? Well, I'll tell you what will happen. They'll take away your guns. They'll take away your money. They'll take away your voice. You're done. It's over. You don't get to fight back. So in the past, if somebody wins and terrible things happen, it's not an existential crisis. You get another bite at the apple. This time, like, they're going to take your teeth away. You will never get another bite at the apple. But many Christians and conservatives do not believe that's what we're facing. They are very naive with regard to evil. And I think that's the reason for that. And it's the same thing you could say about the Germans in 1933 and 34, the German Christians. They had never seen real evil before. They weren't wise to it. They didn't grow up in Cuba or in the former Soviet Union. They didn't grow up in a place where cruel, sick people who are wittingly or unwittingly worshiping the devil they hate freedom, and they will crush you if you believe in freedom, if you believe in the dignity of man, if you believe in the Bible. They will crush you. The only question is, how will they do it? And they will do it however they can. In the beginning, Hitler did not advertise what he's going to do. He didn't want to wake up the church. Similarly, when you see Kamala Harris on TV, she's not going to tell you, she's not stupid, what they're going to do. But if you're paying attention, you see they will crush dissent. But Americans have not yet seen that level. In other words, unless the FBI has knocked down your door, unless you have been put into prison for wandering around the Capitol taking selfies, unless it happened to you, you kind of think, well, this doesn't happen to me. This doesn't happen. It happened. Crazy things happen, but it won't happen to me. That's exactly what happened to the German church. It's exactly what is happening now. And it's why I wrote Letter to the American Church, which you mentioned. Letter to the American Church gives the parallels to say, look, the Germans didn't think this could happen to them. They were where we are in 1933. We're not talking about death camps. It's years before that. But some people could see it coming, and they warned. And other people, most people said, I don't think so. We'll wait and see. And in the sequel to Letter to the American Church, which is called Religionless Christianity, I basically, it's kind of the how-to. How is it that Christians can miss this stuff? And what I say is, this is the worst thing that can happen, is that you worship a religious idol. In other words, you're not being openly saying, oh, I am embracing evil, or I'm allowing evil to win. What really happens is you fool yourself into thinking you're doing the right thing. So you're really worshiping a religious idol. You're not worshiping God, but you're worshiping a very religious idol that looks good, and a lot of Christian friends will say, yeah, you're right, and that's what happened to the German church. So that's it in a nutshell. It's an existential crisis. We've never seen one since the Civil War. Before that, you have to look to the Revolution. We have not been in an existential crisis. We are right now.
Well, I think that was very well put. When I'm laughing, it's the laughing of that dark humor where you almost have to laugh sometimes it's so absurd. The ugliness is so bizarre. It would be like seeing a slasher movie that's a C grade slasher movie, that it becomes almost comical, that you're laughing as they're, slaughtering people. So excuse my laughing, but I couldn't help it. You are so spot on. And I think you're also referring to something like what I call it can't happen hereism. This is something that infects Americans in particular. I think it's particularly American. It probably has roots also in Europe, especially the UK. Well, no, we're all just being compassionate. We would just want to, we're all just happy, compassionate people.
Right.
And multiculturalism is one of their existential, nightmares, their bizarre theologies of life or philosophy or ideology. But here it's this is America. We have the Constitution. We have the Declaration of Independence. There's a peaceful transfer of power. Yeah, Trump is a problem there, but it can't happen here. But it can, can't it?
Well, again, this is the horror, is that unless, listen, people have written about this. In my book, If You Can Keep It, which is a short book about America, in that book, I talk about how Lincoln saw this. And when I say Lincoln, I mean Lincoln in 1838. I quote him in the book, If You Can Keep It. In 1838, he's a young man, 28 or 29 years old, and he sees that what those who lived through the Revolution understood was already being forgotten in 1838. And so he's saying, what's going to happen if we lose the fire that they had? They knew what it was like to be under the British yoke. They knew what it was like to risk your life for freedom, for truth, to stand up against oppression. That goes away over time. We forget. Is it really so bad? We forget. Now we're 250 years past, 1776, and we have been so blessed in this nation that we have thoroughly forgotten there is satanic evil in the world. If you come from another country, You've seen it. If you grew up in some of the places I mentioned, in China, if you lived through the Chinese Cultural Revolution, most Americans have no idea of the evil in the world. And I really believe the Lord is allowing a lot of these evils to happen now to wake us up, to say, do you see what can happen? Your town can be overrun by thousands of strangers who can destroy who are going to make it impossible for you to allow your kids to ride their bikes. That this will happen if you don't, if you're not aware of that there's evil in the world, that there are people who don't care about the crime. I live in New York City. There are people who just, they don't care. If some older white woman gets punched in the face by somebody on the street, they don't care. We used to live in a world where our leaders cared about this, where we had law and order. And again, this is just one level that we're talking about. But we're dealing with real wickedness. And I think suddenly seeing some of it, 20 million people coming across the border. Now, let's be clear. Most of them are good people. But you don't have immigration laws in place. You don't have a wall in place because you're worried about the good people. You're worried about the bad people. And that's why you have to vet that. Yeah.
My comment about most of them are good people, I don't disagree with that. I don't care in this respect. They are not fleeing asylum. They're coming here as economic migrants. But they cannot even understand English, and they're going to be handed the right to vote. It was
it's
one
insane.
thing.
No, but you don't even have to go there. They should not be allowed here, period. All I'm saying is that many of these people they're coming in because the door is open. Why wouldn't you come in? If people are going to hand you things, you'd be a fool to remain wherever they are in Guatemala. But the point is, it's the job of our government to say, no, we cannot let other people in unless we vet them, unless we know they're going to. This was so basic throughout our history. The fact that the Marxist lunatics who hate this country are letting them in, it should be obvious. But you have a lot of gullible Americans and a lot of gullible Christians, frankly, who say, oh, we're supposed to welcome the stranger. No, that doesn't really apply to immigration policy. That's not quite right. It's crazy.
No, and I think you bring up so many things that the Marxism is antithetical. It is anti-Christ.
Yes.
Marxism is anti-Christ. And for those, and I'm most concerned about Christians because I've heard the number, seen it, 47% did not vote or did not register to vote. I'm not sure which it is. You might know. How a Christian can cede the culture and the nation, the rule of law, over to the wicked, to Marxists who are antichrist. This, to me, in a nation in which the people are sovereign, that we exercise our sovereignty like a king, and a wicked ruler does not rule. He allows chaos, anarchy, and all that. So we are literally like kings who wickedly decide not to do their civic duty. And then, as we've been doing for a century, ceding it to the wicked. And wondering then why things are going wrong, not taking blame, but then not doing the simple thing to rectify the problem.
Well, I mean, you bring up so much stuff here. First of all, let's be clear. Who and who isn't a Christian it's now a meaningless thing to me if somebody says I'm a Christian. If you say I'm a Christian and I cheat on my wife, I'm going to say, you know what? I don't know that you are a Christian. I don't know that you can be a Christian and do that. Mm-hmm. We have forgotten, and this is a big part of the new book, Religionless Christianity. We have forgotten that God is a holy God. He is a judge. And if you think you can fool him by saying, well, I believe in the bodily resurrection, well, that may cost you nothing. Do you believe in fidelity to your spouse? Do you believe that you have duties, that you have to fight for what is right and good and true? Do you care about strangers? Do you care about people suffering under the laws? Whatever. If you don't care about that, I don't know that you're a Christian. It becomes a meaningless statement. We just had Steph Curry, one of the great basketball players of our time, come out for Kamala Harris. And I have to say, a few years ago, I was so thrilled I heard that this amazing athlete is a Christian. But if you're a Christian, how can you vote for somebody who believes in tearing the limbs off of unborn children, who frames that as reproductive rights, who believes in open borders, which is leading to sex trafficking, the rape of children. If you don't care about that and you say you're a Christian, your Christianity is utterly meaningless to me. And much worse than that, it's meaningless to God. God does not say, you fill out this form, you believe in these things, okay, you're a Christian. How you live shows whether you actually have faith. And many Christians in America have completely forgotten that the scripture says faith without works is dead. I was going to title a letter to the American church, Faith Without Works is Dead. The idea that you can be a Christian because you say, I'm saved by this theology in my head. The devil and God can see what you believe by how you live your life. And so we're dealing with something we've never seen before. But you know what? It's clarifying to see the division. It's clarifying to see who's going to stand. And we have a lot of people that they don't identify as Christians, exhibiting what looks like Christian faith, exhibiting what looks like faith in a higher order. I'm going to stand for what is right and good and true. It's going to cost me, but I'm willing to do that. Why would they be willing to do that unless they have a faith? Maybe they can't name it, but they have a faith in something that's better and truer, and they're going to go with that even if it costs them something. Christians have no excuse to not live like that.
I believe, bravo to everything that you've just said. That's why I call you the conscience of the Christian church, or those who claim to be today. And I think many pastors need the fire in the belly that you have, Eric. And I think that you should be giving seminars to every pastor in the country. The Marxism, well, the plan, how to go from 1933 Germany to death camps, mass exterminations, how to go from January 20th, 2025 to where we're going to be in 4 years. I think, Christian, you need to understand this is real. Kamala is not kind of a socialist, kind of a Marxist, oh, just her daddy was a Maoist. No. She has been swimming with communists, Marxists, fascists, Maoists, socialists, all of that, totalitarians, for her entire life since she was in the crib. And so has Tim Walz, who got married on Tiananmen Square anniversary date, who's been to China 30 times and cannot have gone to China unless he was approved by the Chinese Communist Party and vetted. Yeah. So we are faced with, Christian, a truly Marxist revolution.
It has to be about a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more. Equitable distribution.
Eric, I think one of the first things that they will do is pack the court to prevent backlash from anything, any of the lawsuits that are brought.
They're already doing these things. In other words, we have to be clear, they're already killing America. We're on life support right now. In other words, what they're already doing, they're already stealing elections. They have no problem with that. They're already lying brazenly in debates and in speeches. When I say brazenly, I mean things that have been thoroughly publicly debunked, they continue to say because they don't care and because they are banking on low information voters. They're banking on people that are too busy or too ignorant of what is right and good and true to notice that they're lying. They're doing all these things already, and they're going to do whatever they can do. I mean, that's the point, is that if they can do it, they will do it. If they can steal, they will steal if you let them get away with it. And so we are now, I say this in the new book, Religionless Christianity, we're in the third existential crisis of our history. Right now, we're in a war. It's not a conventional war, but it is a war for all the marbles, for the existence of the United States of America. And it's a war, it's different from our previous wars. It's different from the Revolution and the Civil War in that you have enemies within and without. I mean, we have China just licking its chops at eating our lunch. If you have a Kamala Harris presidency, the globalists will take over. American sovereignty goes away. It's not just that you lose your borders and you lose America in the physical sense. You lose everything. You have all of the systems put in place by the founding fathers, these checks and balances are going to be taken away so that you can have tyranny again. And again, we're almost there. You just said it, packing the court, getting rid of the electoral college. Why do we have a Supreme Court? Why do we have an electoral college? Those are just two examples. Why? Well, to prevent tyranny, because the founders wisely saw that, if it's just, in other words, you can have pure democracy, which is mob rule, where everyone votes and there's no systems in place. There's no checks and balances to say, wait a minute, you can't vote to kill all the Bible-believing Christians. That would be unconstitutional. And who cares? We voted. And who's going to tell us no? The Supreme Court has, So this is, as I say, it's an existential crisis. And the horror to me is how many Christians not just will not vote, but they're not in the fight. They're not going to a church that is aware of what we're discussing, that is willing to fast and pray and to tell its congregation that the nation is at stake. This is not exaggeration, what we're saying here. Now, I really wish it were. I really wish that I was just being, emotional. I'm sorry, but it's like I look at the math. It's pretty simple. This is where we are. And you mentioned it. It's where Hitler was in 33, 34. Once they get their foot in the door, it's only I don't even think we're going to have as much time as the Germans did. I think that if we lose this election, it's over. If we win the election, then we get to fight, and it's still not over, but you have to win the election in order to be able to fight. If we lose the election, they're going to take away every tool we have, every weapon we have to fight, our voices, our money, everything. But again, it's already been happening. The lawfare that we're seeing, all this stuff is already happening.
The
but it will
threats
go
against
through the roof.
Elon Musk, I've been told that the government can take X down, that X can be taken down. And the only reason we have a chance, and I think it's a very good chance for Donald J. Trump to win for other reasons we won't go into, but is because we have X, Rumble, we have the dissent, the places that news can freely be managed. But Elon could be in jail, just like the founder of Telegram, Graham. X can be taken down. The border will be opened up again. Most of the border, the people coming over the border are military-aged men. They've already floated the trial balloon some time ago about putting, as the path to citizenship, putting foreign nationals coming over our border illegally in the military. Can you imagine? What, you're a theologian, I think we could all understand that soldiers do not have the same compassion toward the little old lady or the old man standing in their way if they're not their people. These are just sort of human nature.